3 years ago, I was living in Boston, Massachusetts, just 40 minutes outside of my hometown. And I was working a job that I didn't like. I had been doing that job for 10 plus years, working 50 plus hour weeks. I was spending over 3,500 to 4,000 a month just to survive, right, in the city. I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with the weather. I wasn't happy with my dating life, my social life. My overall quality of life felt like I was just surviving, to be honest. So I knew that I had to make a change. And what I did was I reinvented myself. I completely switched careers within a few short months. I went 100% fully remote. And I decided to sell all my things, including my car, leave my apartment, and just travel the world, right? And since then, that was about 3 years ago, 2022, October 2022. I've lived in several different cities across Latin America. My quality of life has increased tenfold, and I'm living much better than I ever did and could have back in the States, all for just a fraction of the cost. So in this video, I'm gonna break down why I left the United States and decided to move to Latin America, and whether or not you should probably do the same. And by the way, on this channel, I share everything that I've learned about leaving the United States and building a high quality of life in Latin America as a man over 30. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. All right, here's what we'll cover in this video. So I'm gonna do my best to not have this as structured so I can just kind of riff. Hopefully I won't go on too many tangents here, but what I'm going to cover, I'm going to go into how cost of living in the US is getting more expensive and even unsustainable to live a high quality of life. I'm going to go into how I cut my expenses and improve my healthcare access, because that alone was costing me hundreds per month being self-employed. I'm going to go into how I structure my year to live year round in spring and summer like climates, which increases my overall quality of life. I'm going to go into what moving abroad did for my dating life and my social circle, and why I'll probably never date in the US again. Also, how I built a life of freedom, travel, and remote income, why I wanted to escape the political and cultural tension in the US, and finally, whether you should consider doing what I did as far as leaving the West and building a high quality of life in Latin America. All right, so reason number one, and probably the biggest reason of them all, why I left the US and decided to move to Latin America, has to do with the cost of living. Okay, the cost of living in the United States is only going to continue to rise, I believe. Inflation is only going to continue to go up. Taxes are only going to continue to increase the way the states where they're headed with that too. So no matter how hard you work, when you factor all these things in, you're not going to be able to get ahead that much. Even if you're earning 100,000 or more, like per year, that's not that much in the States anymore, right? You're basically lower middle class at that point in the United States. Whereas if you're making just 2,500 a month, 30 to 40,000 a year, all remote, you are in the higher echelon of that society. You are higher upper class, right? You're in the top 5, definitely top 10, probably top 5% of that society. Really anywhere in Latin America. Some cities you get better value, right? And that's what I do my other videos for. But just understand that, like when you only have to spend 2,500 a month to live a great life, right? With less stress, and you have all your needs filled, versus needing to earn 10,000 a month just to really make it, not really thrive that much, right? The amount of stress goes down, your overall happiness and quality of life goes up, right? Because you don't need to work that many hours. You don't need to put in that much time to build your ideal life. And I believe in working to support your lifestyle, not the other way around, right? Unfortunately, what we're taught in the States is you want to get a job, right? You want to go to a good school so you can get a good job, so you can make good money and have a good life, right? Buy a house, get married, have kids. But they never really teach you to decide what your ideal lifestyle looks like first. And a lot of times that doesn't have to take much money, right? Decide what kind of life you want to live. Decide how many hours you actually want to work during the day. You know, some people are workhorses, and I've been around workhorses, people that just love to work. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, God bless them. Those are the rich people in the world. And then you have people who are more lifestyle, right? People who They want to do work that they enjoy. They would sacrifice the amount of money to make to do something that they enjoy and to have freedom of time, freedom of flexibility, freedom of location, freedom of schedule. They would happily take less income to have the ideal lifestyle, right? That's someone like me. So when you first decide the type of lifestyle you want, you understand that you don't need that much money, right? With just 2,500 a month outside of the U.S., that's going to give you the ideal life that you want. I have friends, I'm in my 30s, and I have most of my friends in the States have children. They have families of 5, they have 2, 3 kids, they're married. Their daycare alone for 2 kids, let's say, we'll say 2 to 3 kids, is over $2,000 a month just for someone to take care of your kids while you're at work, right? While you're putting in the hours, working hard to pay your mortgage, right? To pay the food, to pay the daycare. It's 2 to 3,000 a month. Whereas if you're in a country, really anywhere Latin America, a full-time nanny only goes for $100, right? It's only a few $100. I'm sorry, not 100. It's a few $100 a month, right? So this still like blows my mind, and it blows my friends' minds, where I have no children, I have no family, but when I do, hiring a nanny versus paying $2,000-3,000 a month for daycare, and I'm talking full time. Someone's going to cook, clean, watch your kids. Dude, that's a game changer. That's a game changer, right? You don't need to work that many hours to support the ideal lifestyle that you want. Is really what I'm getting at here. And I put a bunch of notes here. I'm just going to riff for this video, guys. Whenever I think something's pertinent, I'll share. But just know this. This alone is going to take you from surviving to thriving. Okay. Then in Boston, I was barely surviving off spending probably 3-4K a month. With just 2,500 a month spending in Latin America, I'm living in the best neighborhoods. I'm eating out every day as much as I want. I have an exciting dating life. I'm exercising regularly. I'm finding time to do all the things that I want to do. I'm living in modern apartments in these neighborhoods, these best neighborhoods, and I'm spending like 2/3 less than what I did before in Boston while living 3 times better. Okay. So imagine how your stress level goes down and your overall happiness and quality of life goes up just from the cost of living aspect. What do we all want at the end of the day? Like, why did our, like my mom's from Guatemala, my dad's from Puerto Rico. Why do people go to the US back then to begin with? It's to have a better overall quality of life. Now we're finding that the better overall quality of life is actually outside the US. All right. So that's reason number 1, cost of living. Second reason has to do also with cost of living, but it has to do with healthcare. Okay, so I've been self-employed since the age of 21, right? I basically got my real estate license at 21, and I was doing that for about a decade. Now, what that meant was I didn't have any employer paying for my insurance, right? And obviously, even though I've always, and I've been lucky too, but I've always been healthy, never had any health issues, right? And the doctors, I go to the doctors every year, and every year the doctor would just tell me, keep doing what you're doing, right? Keep it up, kid. But I was paying hundreds per month. I think my premiums were it was like 4 something. Sometimes I got into the 500s just for a policy that only covered emergencies, right? And yeah, I covered the annual doctor, but I didn't really need that, right? I believe that I should go to the doctors. I should do an annual checkup, yes, but pay out of pocket for that, right? Versus spending a few $100s a month for something that I didn't really need. I was young, healthy. I barely used it, but I still paid thousands, guys, tens of thousands over the years just in healthcare. In Latin America, it's a totally different game. Okay, what I do now is I use Safety Wing for emergencies, which covers me up to $500,000 in case something bad were to happen to me, right? And I needed to pay for hospital bills and being in the hospital for weeks at a time, that sort of thing. But now, whenever I need to go to the doctor, whether it's a blood work, whether it's for STD checks to make sure everything's good there, for just regular checkup, just to make sure I'm healthy, right? And there's nothing wrong with me. It only costs me about $50 to $70 in total. Usually I'm able to do it on the same day or the next day to schedule an appointment. It's super efficient and it's super more affordable, right? Versus the garbage healthcare system in the States, honestly. I've also gotten my teeth, teeth whitening, cleaning. I've gotten Invisalign in Colombia, all for a fraction of what I would have paid in the US. And I'm very happy with the results. So the service has been professional. It's been high quality. and it's been a fraction of what I would have paid in the States. This alone is what drives a lot of older people, like in their 50s and 60s and 70s, for they call it medical tourism, I believe, because they get the same type of healthcare, the same type of care that they would have gotten in the States, even better actually, because you can get your doctor's WhatsApp number, right? You can exchange cell phones. Try that. Try doing that in the States and how much that'll cost you. Everything for a fraction of the price, and for really the same type of care that you would get. So this is a huge reason as well. All right, now weather. Coming from a place in the Northeast, winters suck. I grew up in that. The first 30 so years of my life, it was just normal. But now I have the luxury to chase summers and spring-like weather all year round by constantly living in locations that have the weather that I enjoy, right? For example, a place like Lima, Peru has amazing weather between December and April. Guess when I'm going to be in Lima, Peru? Definitely not outside these months. It's going to be somewhere between these months to enjoy the benefits and the fruits of Lima, Peru. After that, it gets cold and gloomy, so it's really not for me. Asuncion, Paraguay, a place that I consider my base. I was there for 8 months out of the year. Has weather that I like between September and May. It can get hot during December and February, but it's not too bad for me. So these are the months that I want to be there for. And then outside of those months, it gets colder. Like it could get like in the 50s, darker early, that sort of thing. It's their winter between June, July, and August. So where am I now? Right now, I'm in Colombia, right? Many cities in Colombia have great weather all year round, right? If you like summer-like weather all year round, Cali has that. If you want spring-like weather, Medellin, or where I'm at now in Bucaramanga, has that all year round. This alone is going to increase the quality of your life. And by the way, this entire video, as far as why I left the US and moved to Latin America, it's because of the higher quality of life at the end of the day. That's what we want. It's what we all want, right? So weather alone makes a huge difference in your overall happiness. Okay, waking up to the sun, getting sun every day, going outside, doing. I enjoy working out, doing calisthenics in parks. So if the weather's, the weather has to be good to do that sort of thing. Running outside, every week. So weather plays a huge factor in increasing the quality of my life. And I've also found that the warmer the weather, the friendlier the people. All right, colder places just create colder people. So for me, I'm always going to be in warm weather. Sure, once in a while, will I escape to a colder climate? Sure, I can do that, but I have the choice to do that. I don't have to live in that. So this alone has been a huge factor as far as why I left the States and moved to Latin America as well. All right, now dating. Dating is also a big one. Not just dating, but also like future family stuff. All right, I might spend a little time on this one, guys. So back in Boston, I did date. I did date a bit, but I was always hustling. I was trying to get ahead. My energy was limited. I wasn't really giving women the how do you say it, the energy and time that they deserve to take something seriously, right? So it wasn't easy. And if you're not already in the top percent, like of income earners, of men, of social status, it's tough. It's, especially in a place like Boston. Boston's one of the toughest dating markets out there, right? All the women want, I think I heard a stat, top 80% of women want the top 20% of men, and really the top 5 to 10% of men are the ones who really they're spoiled for choice. They have all the options in the world. Well, guess what? In Latin America, I mean, your value as a man skyrockets. So even if you're making $2,500 a month, you're in the top 10% of income earners in the country, right? So you're already top echelon of man there, probably top 5 to 10% in most places. Add in the fact that you're foreign, that you're confident, that you instantly stand out for these reasons. And right now, I mean, I'll just be transparent. I date multiple high quality women, many of them in their 20s and 30s. I don't lie to them. I tell them I'm not monogamous right now. I built my own system as far as when it comes to dating, because I had the time now. I had the time and energy to really focus on this area of my life where I never really did before. I was just winging, dating in the past. But now I got really intentional about it. And that's what I mean here when I say intentional. And I built a system. I got in really good photos. I have a solid Instagram. I've optimized messaging. Now, me, I don't know if you're familiar with what is it, the Myers-Briggs, right? I'm a INTJ, so I'm very analytical when it comes to this type of stuff. I'm very systems. I think in systems, right? So as far as even like things like messaging, having good logistics, having a dating funnel, right? And I have a business background, so like I think of everything in like funnels and stuff like that. So I was able to spend a lot of time really perfecting the system, and now it comes much easier to me. Like anytime I want to set up a date, I can set up 2 dates, 2 to 3 dates any week that I want. Okay, and the women in Latin America tend to be more feminine. They're more caring. They're more loyal. Once a girl likes you, she's gonna cook for you. She's going to clean. She's gonna treat you like a man. She's gonna cut your toenails, right? Good luck finding that, in the US. Now, I'm not here to bash American women because I dated a lot of American women and I really, I have nothing bad to say about them. But there is a difference when it comes to the femininity, the caring, a girl that's going to cut your toenails and really just make sure you feel like a king and like a man. There's more quantity of that and quality of that in Latin America. Now, even more importantly, this is just from the dating aspect, right? As far as meeting new women, as far as dating new women, whether you want to be monogamous or not, you just want to date one, you want to date multiple, that's cool. It's all the same system. It's just on the back end, whether you want to date multiple, just date one. That's you right away. This is going to increase for you, right? As a man, as a single man. So your dating life is going to be much better in Latin America, period. And if you have a system in place, then you're golden. Now, in terms of family, children, having a wife someday, I put here that I'm probably never going to get married or have children in the US. Now, this has nothing to do with the American women. It has everything to do with the American systems. Let me explain. So in the US, as a man, you're actually putting yourself at risk when you have children, when you get married, or even when you live with a woman. Forget about, you don't even need to get married. What you're doing is you're raising your children in a woke culture that you can't control. I hear that they're teaching kids that it's okay to change your gender. Like that to me, I don't agree with that, especially in the schools. You don't find that in Latin America. Now, in the case of divorce or separation, and by the way, statistically speaking, right, just going by math, this is more likely to occur than not occur. Okay, monogamous relationships, monogamous marriages, more times than not, it's going to end in divorce for whatever reason. All right. And what this means is the government is going to decide everything. This has nothing to do with the woman, and it has everything to do with the government and the court systems. So by living with a woman, by having children, by marrying in the United States, or just with an American woman, even if you're in Latin America and you meet an American woman, she has a US passport, she can easily just go to a lawyer in the US and you're subject to the same laws, okay? So what you're doing is you're risking paying alimony, you're risking paying child support that's decided by the government. And I believe every man should pay for their children, but I don't think it should be decided by the government, right? If that makes sense. Because a lot of times this can be harsh for men. And a lot of men commit suicide for this reasons. I've heard horror stories. And I'm sure if you're watching this video, you probably heard stories as well. Or you probably know someone that's gone through a divorce and has to pay alimony or child support and really just ruins their lives, right? They're never the same. It's like the more money they make, the more they have to give to their spouse, right? Or to their children, where it's not like, obviously you need to pay for food and clothes and stuff like that, but you don't need to go extravagant, right? Which a lot of these court systems unfortunately make. All right. You're also risking half of your assets, right? You're risking the ability also not to be able to see your children, right? These are all decisions that you have no control over. It's all decided by the government. So all these reasons could literally wipe a man out. It could lead a man to depression, to suicide. And most suicides in the US are men. And I think most of them happen for situations like these, right? So this is why many men right now in the States, they're actually opting out of getting married. They're opting out of having a family for all of these reasons. And it's because in the US, the courts are against you. And the woman is actually incentivized, let me correct that, to divorce you, right? They're incentivized to do this. So most of the time, and this is facts, this is factual data, women, it's the woman who leaves the man in a relationship. But in Latin America, you are not subject to any of this, all right? So the key is, and this is kind of my theory or my philosophy right now, the key is not to marry, have children in the US or even with an American woman. And that's sad to say, because I love American women. I'm not the guy that's going to say American women are all bad, right? You'll find amazing women in the States or in Canada, right? But when you're subject to all these laws, you're putting yourself at risk, right? And it's a big risk. It's a huge risk, right? Think about, and the probability is also over 50%. So if I were to tell you that if you were to jump out of a plane, right, and there's a 50% chance that that parachute will not work, which means if it doesn't work, you die, AKA it's a huge risk. Would you do it? You know, and some men do. You know, some men do. They're maybe, I think most men probably aren't aware of all this, and some men are aware and they still do it because of the benefits of having family and legacy and children, right? But you have other options. You know, there's other options, and the other option is moving to Latin America or another country, right? Because the government or the courts can't go after you if she's not a U.S. citizen, or obviously if she's not, if it's not in the U.S. And your children will also grow up in a more conservative, unwoke culture. And in the case of divorce, you are not at risk. You are not at risk for alimony or paying child support that's determined by the government. Now, if you have children and you get separated, like you better pay some child support. Otherwise, you're low. But you don't want to be subject to the government determining how much you should pay, right? That should be a negotiation between you and your women and what's best for your children. All right. So I think this section is important when it comes to dating as a man. Not only are you dating, quality women, not only as you seen as a higher value man, so you have a lot more options, right? You're in the top 5-10%. So you have a lot more options when it comes to finding a quality woman. But also you're at much less risk to really wipe yourself out financially or from being able to see your kids. And for all these reasons that I just mentioned here, this is another big reason why leaving the US and moving to Latin America is a benefit. All right, now let's talk community, social life, and people, right? In general, in the US, as a man in his 30s, it's really difficult to make new friends. You know, most of the friends that I have are friends that I made back in high school through sports, right? Through football, through baseball, in college, or in my 20s when I was just getting started with work, right, in the real estate space. Really, it's through high school, through your 20s. These are the friends you're going to pretty much have for the rest of your life, right? After that, like once a man gets into his 30s, a lot of men, many of them, like my friends, they had children, they got married. It's tough to see them as often. You know, it's tough to find men who are also single, building something like a business without children in your 30s. Yeah, I'd say 80% of my friends in the States, they have family and kids. I'm one of the few who actually decided to delay this decision because I believe like as a man, I could wait until my 40s, even 50s if I wanted to really have a family. And I think the older you are as a man, the better father you'll be because you're more mature, you're more experienced, right? You have more money, you can support your family, you have more wisdom. All these reasons, I think it's better to have children as a man late 30s, 40s, even 50s versus in your 20s. And in Latin America, it is actually much easier to make friends, right? Because when you meet someone, you already have things in common, right? By default, you already like to travel, number one. Maybe they also have a lot of your same viewpoints as far as leaving the United States. You probably share the same opinions when it comes to, not being super political and not really caring about what's going on in the States politically wise. And you probably share the same things about lifestyle design, right? So you just have more values and things in common with people that you meet outside of the States. And an easy line, because sometimes you might meet someone and they might not look like, they're from the country, you're not sure what country they're from. Just by saying saying hi and like, are you from here? Eres de aquí? That alone could open up a lot of doors, right? It opens up a conversation. You understand where each other's are from, maybe grab a coffee, meet up. And this is an easy way to make friends in Latin America. As a man in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, much easier than you would in the States. Another reason is woke culture and the political divide that's happening in the States, okay? Now, I lived in Boston. I'm from Massachusetts, so everything felt politically charged. In my state, it's pretty much far left, right? I've never really been into politics. I've never really cared who was president, to be honest, and I was rare, because people either they either love the right or they love the president or they hate the president, right? In my case, a lot of my family members, like my dad, for instance, he hates, he's super left, right? But me, I didn't really care. I always believed that regardless of who's in office or who's president, I have control over my destiny, right? I don't care who is in office. I believe in personal freedom with balance. I'm not anti-government, but I also don't want the government to have a say in every part of my life either, right? And I also don't want to be taxed to death for it. So the truth is, moving abroad removed politics from my daily life. I stopped caring about it. It stopped becoming a thing. And guess what? My life also improved because of that. Another reason why I left the US and moved to Latin America is for the adventure and the lifestyle. I've always dreamed of travel, but real estate in Boston really made that difficult because it's a very location dependent profession, and it's very competitive in Boston, right? It's very local and it's very competitive. So even if I wanted to scale and maybe build a team, it just meant more time, more energy, more stress, right? And I'd always have to come back to. So once I switched to doing something remote, which right now I do remote sales, and I was able to replace my income in just a few months, I booked a one-way ticket and I've basically been in Latin America since then, right? Some benefits to that: I speak the language much better. My background, by the way, is Puerto Rican and Guatemalan, but I pretty much spoke English, right? Living in Boston, and in my profession, there was a lot of English. Now, the cool thing about being in Latin America is I'm still close to the US. So, I'm close with my family, my parents, they're aging. So I want to be there. I want to be able to see them at least once a year. I have a brother that I'm close with. I have friends still that I'm close with, mainly in Boston and Miami. So I want to see them, every year. And being in Latin America makes that much more convenient and easy when it comes to flights, right? To be able to do that every single year. My lifestyle right now is 8 months in my base, which is Paraguay, 4 months traveling through really finding a second city that I want to live. We'll call it 3 months, and then 1 month in the US to do this. And being in Latin America allows me to do this every year at an affordable cost. I'm also on US time zones being in Latin America. So this is perfect for remote work. A lot of you in your 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe you don't want to retire just yet. You still want something to do. And a lot of times, if you don't have your own business, or even if you have your own business, you might have to do sales calls, client calls, whatever it may be, and your clients are most likely going to be in the US or Canada, then you want to be able to live a normal lifestyle where you're not working in the middle of the night, right? Which would be true if you were to live in a place like Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, right? Or even Europe, where you'll be working later, right, in the evenings. I prefer to work a normal lifestyle. I wake up early, I get my work done early, and then I have more freedom, evenings for social, for dating, for whatever I want. So being in US time zones is huge. Another reason why I love Latin America. So this really was the lifestyle that I had always imagined for probably 10 years. I've always wanted to travel, but just being in real estate, it was super local. I really wasn't able to go to many places or be in many places for a long period of time. Right. So now that I'm living the lifestyle that I am, like I said, having a base for 8 months, traveling second city 3 months, States 1 month, and I'm still playing around with the ideal lifestyle designs. But really, this was the freedom that I was missing for the longest period of time. Freedom being one of my highest values in life really increases my overall quality of life and happiness. So final thoughts: was leaving the US and moving to Latin America a good decision? Do I regret it? I mean, as you guys can probably imagine, this has been the single best decision I've made in my entire life when it comes to increasing the overall quality of my life. All right. For all the reasons that I mentioned earlier in this video, right? I'm living in modern apartments. I'm living in the best neighborhoods of the city. I'm eating well. I'm dating beautiful women. My dating life has increased tenfold. I have the time freedom. I actually enjoy my day-to-day life. And you don't have to be rich. Okay. I'm not some crypto millionaire. I just built systems. I built systems. I took a chance. I prioritized freedom, lifestyle, and peace over the grind. And if you're a man in your 30s or 40s, or even older in your 50s, 60s, and if you're feeling burnt out, if you're tired of all the noise, all the politics, the prices going up, right? If you just feel like something's off and things can be improved, if your stress is high, if your happiness is low, this lifestyle might be possible for you, So I would say give it a thought. Check out some other videos and see if this is something you want to give a shot. So that's it for today's video, guys. Man, that felt like a long one. This is really the first video that I've done just kind of expressing my take on things and focusing it more about what I think versus what, talking about certain countries or certain cities. It's really about my life and why I chose to leave the States and move to Latin America. So hopefully didn't feel like I was going on too much of a rant. But yeah, I mean, just to recap, guys, again, single best decision I've made in my life to increase the quality of my life has been to live in Latin America. Cost of living, your dating life is going to improve, your social life is going to improve. I think dating and social life are underrated because those two things right there are going to have a drastic impact on your overall happiness and overall quality of life, and also your longevity. My health, my fitness has improved because I'm finding more time to work out. Living in good weather all year round, you have no excuse not to go outside,
not to go for walks, for runs, for working out at the park, for doing pull-ups, for doing calisthenics outdoors, which is super fun for me now. These are all reasons why, and I didn't even go into the food, guys. Like, the food here is a lot more, it's natural, it's organic, right? It's the fruits and vegetables in Colombia and Paraguay, the meat, it's all higher quality for less cost. So maybe I'll do some more videos on that. I don't want this video to get longer than what it already is, so I'll end it here. If you're new to this channel, guys, once again, I talk about everything that I've learned on leaving the United States and living a higher quality life in Latin America. So if that resonates with you, be sure to subscribe, be sure to check out my other videos on cost of living, and just to give you an idea as far as what life could look like for you in these other countries and cities. So thanks for watching, and I'll look out for the next ones.